You really have to hear what this man encountered. Stay with me, and you will understand why some people leave the Sawtooth backcountry alive and never truly come back. On September 18, 2008, in Idaho's Sawtooth wilderness above Pettit Lake, 4 people rode in and only 2 walked back to the trailhead. The dead did not bleed out. They did not drown. Their hearts failed inside healthy bodies under clear weather, and the county report blamed exposure anyway. That report was wrong before the ink dried. What comes next is the account. My name is Daniel Washaki. I am 68 years old. I served as a backcountry ranger for the Sawtooth National Recreation Area for 26 years. My mother's family is Shoshone. My grandfather hunted and prayed in those basins long before trail maps put clean lines over them. Nothing had ever frightened me. That changed at the Sawtooth Wilderness. I knew that country. I knew where storms built first and which drainages kept cold air after sunset. The place we were assigned that week sat above Yellow Belly Lake, near dark timber below a broken wall of granite that funneled wind and sound into one narrow basin. Full help was Stanley, 42 miles by road from the trailhead and another 19 miles by horse from our camp. My grandfather had one rule about those high basins, and he repeated it every autumn until I could hear the words before he said them. He told me there are places where grief does not stay inside a person. It moves through timber like weather and waits for a voice to carry it. He said old people among the Shoshone did not map those pockets because naming a place too plainly could make younger men brave in the wrong direction. They marked them by behavior instead. Horses would refuse a meadow with good feed. Dogs would tuck their tails at empty shorelines. Hunters would come home with no meat and no clear memory of why they had abandoned a clean trail. When I was young, I heard those things and filed them beside campfire talk, useful for manners, not for policy. In 2008, I learned that old caution can outlast every modern explanation a government office can print. There were 4 of us. I was 49 then. Nora Fielding was 36, a fisheries biologist with 11 years in alpine waters. Eli Mercer was 57, district supervisor, 22 years in federal land management, and careful with words and stubborn. The last was Kevin Rooks, 24, seasonal tech, first season in Idaho, good with mules and eager to prove he belonged. We reached the basin late and built camp on a shelf above the creek. Timber crowded 3 sides. The 4th dropped toward water black enough to reflect the peaks without showing its own depth. We found nothing reportable except one mule acting sour at an empty stand of fur. By dusk, the basin had gone still. Not quiet. Still. In quiet country, you hear distance. In that basin, distance closed. Kevin laughed when the first thing happened. Then Nora pointed to the mud along the creek and said we had crossed our own tracks. We walked over with lanterns. 4 sets of boot prints came out of camp, crossed the bank, and then stopped in the middle of the flat as if the people wearing them had been lifted straight upward. No drag marks, no return trail, no washout. Eli told us to mark the place and leave it for morning. Kevin said someone was playing a trick. Nobody answered him. At 9:14 p.m., every sound in the timber ceased. Frogs, insects, water over rock, even the little clicks pack-tack makes when leather cools. Eli was speaking when he stopped and turned toward the trees west of camp. We heard one step, then another. Slow, measured, too heavy for elk. Not enough brush movement for bear. The lantern light showed nothing except Kevin's rain jacket hanging from a branch 30 feet from where he had left it, folded on his saddle. Perfectly arranged. Eli took Kevin and went to retrieve it. Nora said not to split. Eli told her they were walking 30 feet, not crossing a state line. That was the first mistake. I watched their lights move between the trunks and dim as the ground dipped. Then Kevin called out once. He sounded confused. We reached him in less than a minute. He was standing barefoot in the needles, looking at nothing. His boots were placed beside each other 3 feet away, clean, laces tied, toes pointed toward camp. Kevin told us he had heard his mother saying his name from farther in the timber. She had been dead 6 years. Eli grabbed his shoulders, and Kevin's knees gave out. By the time we got him onto a tarp, his pulse had gone thin and quick. No wound. He whispered one Shoshone word wrong and died before midnight. The coroner later wrote cardiac arrhythmia complicated by altitude and cold. Kevin had passed his physical 6 weeks earlier. The night was 38 degrees. He wore wool, canvas, and a down liner. His core temperature, taken when the helicopter crew met us the next day, was not low enough to support the report. I keep a copy anyway. We did not leave at once, because leaving at night on stock through broken granite would have killed us faster than staying put. It was the second mistake. We sat in shifts with radios, lanterns, and the service shotgun. Nora asked me what Kevin tried to say. I told her he had used a broken form of daiguani, an old word my grandfather translated as the one who takes the breath behind the eyes. Nora wrote it down. At 1:06 a.m., my radio died in my hand. Fresh battery, no warning. Nora's GPS screen went white. Eli's satellite phone shut off at 90% charge. Then the basin went still again. We heard the animals only when they hit the lead ropes and began to scream through their nostrils. Something moved past the far side of camp in pieces I could not connect into one body. First low, then high, then gone, as if it crossed ground without respecting it. It did not rush us. It circled. That was worse. We found where it wanted our eyes by what it made us look at. A clatter rose near the gear tree. Nora turned. I turned with her. Eli did not. He was staring at the dark above the creek. He said, very softly, that someone was standing on the water. Then the lantern nearest him went out. We heard Eli running, 1 step, 2, then brush cracking downhill. I reached him first because I knew the ground. He lay on his side 10 yards from the bank, hat still on, flashlight still looped to his wrist. No mark on him, no broken neck, no blood. His eyes were open, fixed on the creek. The medical examiner could not explain his death either. 2 healthy men, same basin, same night, same blank body. Dawn let us move. We packed Kevin and Eli for extraction and rode out with Nora behind me, both of us checking the timber every few seconds without meaning to. By the switchbacks, we found another sign. A line of tracks in damp soil, longer than my hand. The stride measured just over 4 feet. The prints ended mid-step on open ground. No turn, no leap mark, no rock shelf, just absence. Nora did not speak for nearly an hour. She said her Lemhi Shoshone grandmother had warned her never to answer a voice that called from timber after first frost. I told her my grandfather had given the same rule and another with it. If the basin goes silent, and cover your eyes and speak to your dead as if they are already buried. Do not let it borrow your face to open your mouth. Nora asked why I had not said that earlier. I had no answer that made me worth trusting. We were forced into one more night at a fire-overlooked cabin above Hell-Roaring Creek. 1 room, tin roof, 1 door with a warped frame and 2 windows too thin for comfort. We counted what we had left like people inventorying breath. 12 shotgun shells, 2 horses still manageable, 1 mule too wild to load. Nora burned sage in a coffee cup. I nailed a wool blanket over the west window because I could not stand the trees. Just after midnight, the silence came again. Then a voice outside said my mother's name in my grandfather's cadence. Nora heard a different voice. Later she said it was her brother, dead at 19. No, we did not answer. The latch lifted once and fell back. A handprint appeared on the glass of the east window from the outside, though the sill stood 7 feet off the ground. Not mud, not blood. A pale print that faded inward. The thing tested the cabin for an hour. Then hoofbeats from nowhere, drawing Nora to the door because she thought the horses had broken free. That was how it worked. Not rage. Selection. She reached the latch. I caught her sleeve and threw my coat over her head so she could not look through the crack. She fought me and then collapsed against the table. Outside, something walked away on feet too measured for panic. We left at first light and made Stanley by afternoon. The report said exposure, stress, and poor judgment. It omitted the dead radios, the handprint, the stopped tracks, Kevin's folded boots, and Eli's expression. I visited a records room in Boise and found earlier files. Summer 1974. Forest Service employee Garrett Lem found beside Alpine Creek, no external injuries, heart failed. October 1956. Sheepherder Thomas Arrieta, boots placed side by side. September 1923. Surveyor H. Bell, tracks stopped in meadow mud. Same country, same season, same first frost. I carried those copies to Amos Pashiwa, an elder from Fort Hall. He read them, then handed me a buckskin packet tied with blue thread. Inside was a note in my grandfather's hand and a small antler charm. The note named the presents as Daigwani Nape, the taker of the inward breath. Amos told me our old people did not hunt it because it was not hunting the body. It thinned a person from the inside. He said it came to echoing basins after first frost and favored those who answered grief when grief called in a familiar voice. Nora survived. She married, moved to Oregon, and refused mountain assignments after that fall. In 2019, she died in her sleep at 47. No family history, no warning. The doctor told her husband it looked like heart failure that should not have happened yet. Eli's widow sent me that clipping without a note. I understood why. The Sawtooth Wilderness is open to the public today. Families still launch canoes at Redfish, walk the ridge lines, and sleep under clean skies. Most people go in and come home with nothing worse than sore knees and too many pictures. But on cold September nights, after the first hard frost, when a basin goes still, there are places in that country where sound folds back on itself. Oh, people hear a familiar voice. A tent zipper opens. A pair of boots is found standing neatly together in the dark. Nobody ever connects those cases because the reports never say enough to let the pattern show. If you go there and hear someone you miss calling from the timber, do not answer, do not follow. Cover your eyes if the silence drops. Speak to your dead as if they are gone. I still lock doors before September rain touches the roof. I survived because I never looked at it when it used my mother's voice in the dark. That is the part that keeps me awake at night.